to our half-hour broadcast in English for listeners in Western Europe and North America, the East Coast. We can also be heard on the internet in WMA, MP3 and AAC Plus formats at www.rri.ro Channel 1. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Flickr, Pinterest, Instagram, LinkedIn and SoundCloud. We wish you good reception conditions.
Welcome to this broadcast on Radio Romania International. Radio Newsreel.
Hello, I'm your host Vlad Palcu. Coming up in the newsreel after the news bulletin, listen to a commentary on the latest political developments in Romania, influenced by the last day's protests across the country. That will be followed by another one on the situation of the Romanian economy. First, the news with Elena Enache.
The headlines. Romania's President Klaus Iohannis announced fresh consultation for next week for the appointment of a candidate for the Prime Minister post. 65 people injured in the fire at a nightclub in Bucharest are still in critical condition. Romania's economy will continue to grow in 2016 due to strengthened consumption and fiscal relaxation, the European Commission forecasts. Romania's President Klaus Iohannis announced on Friday that fresh consultation for the appointment of a candidate for the Prime Minister position was set for next week. On Thursday and Friday, the head of state met with representatives of parliamentary parties and, for the first time in Romanian politics, with civil society members. President Iohannis, who Thursday appointed the Education Minister Sorin Câmpeanu as interim Prime Minister, said a solution could be presented towards the end of next week. Consultations are held following the resignation of the Social Democrat Prime Minister Victor Ponta against the background of large-scale street protests in the past few days. Last week's deadly fire at a nightclub in Bucharest, which killed 32 people and left more than 100 severely injured, fueled public anger at the political elite. Tens of thousands of people protested every evening in Bucharest and other Romanian cities against corrupt politicians, asking for a reform of the political class. As many as 65 people injured in a fire at Bucharest's nightclub Collective last Friday continue to be in critical condition. The fire killed 32 people. Romania's interim Prime Minister Sorin Câmpeanu announced that his cabinet will approve next week the payment of the medical treatment for patients who will be transferred to hospitals abroad in countries like the Netherlands, Belgium, Israel, Germany and France. According to Health Minister Nicolae Bănicioiu, skin transplant was performed on several patients, and some of them underwent surgical procedures needed to help them breathe. Anti-corruption prosecutors have started investigation at the City Hall of Bucharest's District 4, where the tragedy occurred. They are investigating the manner in which the permits for the club's functioning had been granted. The club's 3 owners were taken in temporary custody on suspicion of manslaughter and involuntary bodily harm. The growth of the Romanian economy will be accelerated this year and in 2016, reaching 3.5% and 4.1% respectively. It is supported by the fiscal relaxation measures that boost domestic consumption, but that will deepen the budget deficit, show the autumn estimates made by the European Commission. The estimates are better in comparison with those made in spring. Romania's economic growth may exceed expectations if Romania manages to absorb more European funds. Also, the European Commission improved estimates related to the budget deficit from 1.2% in 2015 to 2.8% in 2016 in comparison with the spring prognosis. when it had anticipated a budget deficit of 1.6% this year and of 3.5% in 2016. With a low unemployment rate and following the reduction by 4% of the VAT, domestic consumption is expected to grow in Romania in 2016 to reach a maximum post-crisis level, but the level will drop in 2017, the European Commission report shows. The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development also anticipates the growth of Romania's economy by 3.5% in 2015 and by 3.7% in 2016. Thousands of British holidaymakers are stranded in the Red Sea resort of Sharm el-Sheikh following London's decision to suspend all flights to and from the Egyptian resort. The measure was taken over concerns voiced by the British Premier David Cameron and US President Barack Obama that it was possible a bomb on board had brought down the Russian plane which crashed last week, 23 minutes after takeoff from the Sinai resort of Sharm el-Sheikh. The crash on Saturday killed all 224 people on board. Nicolae Timofti, the president of the Republic of Moldova, appointed Mihai Gribincea as the country's ambassador to the neighboring Romania. Gribincea will replace the current Moldovan ambassador, Yuri Renica, whose mandate has expired. And that was the news.
You are listening to the newsreel on Radio Romania International. The fall of the Ponta cabinet did not quell protests in Romania. Tens of thousands of people have been in the streets for the last few nights, demanding an end to corruption. Here is a report by Bogdan Matei, brought to you by Ana Maria Popescu.
In Bucharest, desperation, pain, and horror turned to anger. Then anger turned to change, a change that many desired but few dared think possible. After last Friday's fire that killed over 30 people in a Bucharest nightclub, leaving 150 injured, Romanians observed 3 days of national mourning in an exemplary manner. Starting on Tuesday, however, the people took to the streets, striking fear in the people in power. Spontaneous, fed by social media, without visible leaders, without authorization from the authorities, protest marches brought out to the street tens of thousands of people in all major cities. Most of them young, the protesters expressed in a noisy, cursing, sarcastic but non-violent way the revolt at a political class they see as cynical, reckless and corrupt. One of the most popular slogans of the marches was "Corruption Kills," uttered against both local and national administrations. On Wednesday, Social Democrat Prime Minister Victor Ponta, who has been under investigation for corruption since summer, along with his entire coalition cabinet, resigned. That same day, Bucharest District 4 Mayor Piedone, whose office released the license for the nightclub where the tragedy occurred, also stepped down. Starting Thursday, parliamentary party representatives initiated consultations with President Klaus Iohannis to designate a new prime minister. Thrown off by the vehemence on the street, politicians have failed to make specific nominations because that position is now a hot potato for any one of them. The interim Prime Minister, Sorin Câmpeanu, Minister of Education, is not believed to be able to stay on for long. The main party in the ruling coalition, the Social Democratic Party, pleads for maintaining the president's three-party formula because they claim that they need, as soon as possible, a functioning executive to issue the state budget law for next year and run the country over the winter. Of the parties in opposition, the Liberals and the Hungarian Union call for dissolving parliament and early elections, resetting the political game and restoring legitimacy to members of parliament. The idea of early elections is closer to what people call for in the streets. Slogans are flying, such as "This is the moment, down with the parliament," and "All parties the same filth," and the people are getting more and more restless. Calls for resignation have also been thrown at other political figures, such as the People's Advocate Victor Torba, the head of the Orthodox Church, Patriarch Daniel, and even President Iohannis. Other protesters claim that the Republic itself has been compromised, calling for a change back to monarchy. far from shouting with the same voice, the street these days displays all the tensions in Romanian society.
In a domestic and external context marked by uncertainties, the National Bank of Romania has made a number of monetary policy decisions. The central bank governor says Romania's macroeconomic situation is stable, but the effects of the current political circumstances after the cabinet resigned will depend on how quickly a new government is formed and on the measures it will take. Călin Coțoiu brings you the details in a report written by Andreea Bojoi.
The governor of the National Bank of Romania, Muguri Sărescu, believes that after the resignation of the government, a new cabinet needs to be formed as soon as possible in order to avoid uncertainty at a time when the country's economy was going well. Here is Muguri Sărescu. The effects will depend on how soon a new government is formed and on the decisions that this new government will be taking. What I can tell you is that at present the economic situation that we are monitoring and for which we are responsible is stable. The country's economic condition is generally a good one, and that we have made sure that we are in a position to handle a situation which is, let's say, difficult. That was Governor of the National Bank of Romania, Muguri Sărescu. On Thursday, the National Bank decided to keep the key interest rate at the current 1.75% per year and minimum compulsory reserves for banks at their current levels. Governor Isărescu explained that the decision was prompted by current uncertainties, both in the country, including the absence of a budget law for next year, and internationally, including the developments in the main emerging economies and in China. Here is the governor once again.
Pe plan intern, procesul de numire a unui nou guvern accentuează.
Domestically, the nomination of a new government deepens the uncertainties related to the mix of macroeconomic policies, especially considering that the public budget is not yet configured. The international context, in turn, remains marked by uncertainties, fueled particularly by the economic developments in China and other major emerging states, with an impact on the economic growth in the Eurozone and at a global level. On the other hand, Isărescu said that the annual inflation rate remained negative and was even lower than expected, primarily as a result of a surprisingly notable drop in fuel prices. He added that inflation will remain below zero in the next 3 quarters as well, and then will resume an upward trend, but not exceeding 1.5% until early in 2017. In addition, the governor said that loan contracting has strengthened, particularly in the national currency segment. For the first time in 8 years, loans in the Romanian currency have outpaced those in foreign currencies. The positive trends in the Romanian economy were confirmed by the autumn forecast of the European Commission. The European Commission upgraded its forecasts on Romania's economic growth to 3.5% for this year and 4.1% for 2016. The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development also upgraded its economic growth forecast for Romania to 3.5% and 3.7% for this year and the next. In its latest report, released on Thursday, the EBRD says Romania will have the most substantial economic growth rate in Southeast Europe this year.
And that was Radio Newsreel.
You are listening to Radio Romania International.
Focus on Romania. Next on Radio Romania International. The future starts today.
Welcome to a new installment in our regular series, The Future Starts Today. We are Diana Bujeu
And Eugen Nasta.
We should not expect a devastating earthquake in Romania before 2040, with most of them until then reaching no more than 5.7 points on the Richter scale, which presents no major risk. This is what Honorary Director of the Earth Physics Institute, Gheorghe Marmoreanu, said, recalling that Vrancea, the most seismically active area of Romania, produces annually 8 to 12 earthquakes of around 4 points on the Richter scale. According to Gheorghe Marmoreanu, Vrancea is unique in the world.
M-am apucat și am luat pentru Vrancea, că Vrancea este...
I looked at Vrancea, which is a special system, totally different from anything in the world, even if you could say that the Hindu Kush in the Himalayas is similar. It may have strong earthquakes at great depth, but they don't have the same manifestation. There is something similar in the northeast of Colombia. I looked at everything that occurred in the last 600 years in Romania. For the last 300 years of activity, I saw what earthquakes caused loss of life and material goods. In the 312 years I have analyzed, there were 5 great earthquakes that caused loss of life and damage.
A tremor closer to the southeast, meaning less than 100 kilometers, has effects towards Bucharest, Bulgaria and Serbia. They are tremors directing destructive energy in those directions. Deeper tremors get directly mostly towards Moldova and Ukraine. There is an alternation of surface and deep tremors, and by this logic, Marmoreanu said that a quake oriented towards the northwest would occur sometime in 2040, because the one in March 1977 was a surface tremor. There is the possibility that will not occur even then, because in 1986 in Vrancea there was a 6.9 magnitude earthquake that did not do any damage, but released a lot of energy. The Earth is a living system in continuous transformation, says Gheorghe Marmoreanu.
We have the great African rift developing day by day. The waters in the Red Sea have already run into the rift. Africa will one day break up if it shifts upwards. The south and east of Africa will dislocate and form another continent with Madagascar. We don't see it, but America moves further away from Europe every year by 45 to 55 millimeters. Everything is alive. Below us, between 110 to 200 kilometers and 3,000 kilometers, there is magma. Magma is not still, it moves. The upper magma cools, the lower magma is hot. There are convection currents in some places from left to right, in other places from right to left. Above the magma, there are 16 tectonic plates, and at the places they meet, across their thickness, which is 80 to 100 kilometers, there are non-linear phenomena that cannot be controlled.
Earthquakes have different causes. 98% of them are tectonic and superficial. The tectonic plates, which have various thickness and sizes, interact. The greatest tectonic plate is the Pacific one, the Eurasian one, which runs from mid-Atlantic to the Barents Sea, next to others such as the Philippine one. The Pacific plate, the North American plate, and all these float on magma, a melting substance where earthquakes cannot occur, because for earthquakes a crystalline structure is needed, as explained by Gheorghe Marmoreanu. So earthquakes need a crystalline structure, a structure that can store potential energy that is released later. In Romania, tremors do not occur because one plate slides against another. It is a system of continental collision. So how predictable earthquakes really are, says Gheorghe Marmoreanu once again.
Earthquakes are earthquakes. If they were predictable, they would be controllable, which we cannot do in fact. They occur anywhere, in any.
However, Romania has set up a system of real-time tremor warning. Professor Marmoreanu said about this system.
Our system has been granted an award by the European community. It is a system that allows for the magnitude of the tremor to be established in 4 seconds. If the system reveals a 2nd-degree tremor, then all users go on alert, all the areas with a major risk in case of earthquake. It is the only system in the world aside from the Japanese one.
In the event of an earthquake, at-risk installations get launched automatically 30 seconds before the earthquake occurs. State institutions and the Committee for Safer Emergency get alerted.
You have been listening to The Future Starts Today, a feature for
Iogan, an ethnologist with the Northern University of Baia Mare.
Brăcelul este o sărbătoare foarte veche.
Brăcel is an ancient celebration held every year on November the 1st. Over this pre-Christian holiday, we have a Christian holiday that got superimposed, that of Saints Cosma and Damian, the holy and mercenaries. It is a beautiful superimposition of a pre-Christian holiday and one belonging to the church. Brăcel, in traditional mythology, was an old man with long white hair carrying a tall staff. At the tip of his staff, he has a small purse with 9 magical herbs, with the power to heal any illness. This is why this holiday is strictly observed, because it is said that whoever observes it does not get ill all year long. If you violate it by working in the field on that day, you will be plagued by illness, says ethnologist Elias Iogan. Unfortunately, Brăcel is a holiday that lies in passive memory, but the tradition was preserved to gather medicinal herbs at this time of the year. It is said that medicinal herbs gathered during equinoxes are the best. It seems that the balance between night and day grants strength to the healing capacity of those plants. You will today this
Astăzi, în interiorul arcului carpatic românesc,
Today in Romania, the holiday is known as Cosmodin, an agglutination of the names of Saints Cosma and Damian. This joining of names signifies the old holiday of Brăcel. It would be best to recall that these holidays are part of our cultural heritage, Elias Iogan added. Since ancient times, traditional medicine has had a major role in the lives of traditional communities. People used to trust natural remedies passed on from generation to generation. Maintaining the permanent link between man and his environment granted people in olden days a confidence in nature's strength for regeneration, and the tendency to resort to natural remedies is stronger and stronger in modern society. On November the 1st, on the same days of Brăcel, it was believed that the souls of the departed descend among their loved ones. You have been listening to Roots.
And with that, our broadcast in English for listeners in Western Europe and North America, the East Coast, has come to an end. You can listen to our next program for Western Europe at 2300 hours UTC on 6015 and on 7220 kilohertz, and for North America, the East Coast, tomorrow at 100 hours UTC on 6145 and on 7325 kilohertz. We can also be heard on the internet in WMA, MP3 and AAC format at www.rri.ro, Channel 1. If you have any comments or suggestions, please write an email at engl@rri.ro. Goodbye.